So for this meeting, we will talk about your other exempt transactions. So previously, we stopped in your sale of real properties. So sale of your real properties is covered under subsection P, letter P. So we are already in letter P. So we continue from letter P until we finish until letter double A. We start now with letter P. So sale of real properties. Sale of real properties not primarily held for sale to customers or held for lease in the ordinary course of trade or business, or real property utilized for locus and socialized housing as defined under the Urban Development and Housing Act and other related laws, residential lot valued at 1,500,000 pesos, house and lot and other residential dwellings valued at 2.5 million pesos and below. Okay, now, for the sale of real properties under this particular provision, what is uh, what is exempt here is those not primarily held for sale to customers and those held for sale to customers. So when we say not primarily held for sale to customers and those held for sale for customers, we talk about whether you are a dealer or non-dealer. So when will we consider you as a dealer or a non-dealer? So you are considered dealer if it is your primary operations to buy and sell real property. And you are considered non-dealer if it is not your primary operation. So not primary operations. So under the code, dealer and non-dealer has exemptions. So let's take a look. When can we say that a dealer is exempt and a non-dealer is exempt? As a rule, non-dealer is always exempt. Always exempt. So all of the transactions of your non-dealer as to the sale of real property, it is considered exempt from business tax. So for example, you just sold your house and lot. You just sold your house and lot. So since that is not your normal operations, it is not your normal operations to sell your house and lot, then it is exempt from business tax. Next, if you are a dealer, you are exempt if, take note, under non-dealer, we do not have any qualification. Once you are a non-dealer, you are exempt from a business tax. But if you are a dealer, you are only exempt if. So when are you exempt? So the first one, sabi dito, if you are into low-cost and socialized housings. Ayan. Kasi yung first one provides for the exemption of your non-dealer. After that, yung or hanggang sa susunod, doon na sa dealer. So for your non-dealer, exempt if first for your low-cost and socialized housing units. So we have your socialized housing units. And then we have here your low-cost housing units. Another, if you will sell residential lot. Residential lot. Another, if you will sell house and lot or residential dwellings. House and lot or residential dwellings. So if that is house and lot or a residential dwelling. Okay. So under this rule, it provides for certain amounts as to our exemption, So we said under your dealer, you are only exempt if you are selling these items. If you are selling socialized housing, low-cost housing, residential lot, or house and lot or residential dwelling. So when we say you are a dealer, it means that you are engaged in the buying and selling of real properties. So what are the real properties that are considered exempt? Socialized, low-cost, residential lot, house and lot, and residential dwelling. But take note, guys, this exemption is due because your real property is considered an essential good for housing. Okay, so not all of the sales of a dealer is considered exempt, only if the four items, and it is subject to limit. What are the limits? If that is a socialized housing, if that is a socialized housing, if you are if you are selling a socialized house and lot housing, that is 450,000. If it is purely socialized residential lot, your limit is 180,000. If you are selling a low-cost housing, your limit is 750,000. If you are selling residential lot, sabi nung ating law, 1.5 million. If you are selling house and lot and other residential dwellings, 2.5 million. Okay. So here, although if sabi dyan, di ba, pag dealer ka, exempt ka pag ito yung mga binenta mo. Pero is subject it to limit. So if you sell socialized housing, you have here limits. Low-cost housing, limit. Residential lot, limit. House and lot, residential dwelling, may limit din. However, this 1.5 and 2.5 million values were amended via RR. What is an RR again? Revenue regulation. These amounts were adjusted based on our current purchasing power. So what is now the adjusted value? Kung 1.5 million before, ang value niya na ngayon is 1,919,500. Ang value niya na ngayon ay 1,919,500. Tapos kung 2.5 million, ang value naman na ngayon ay 3,199,200. Okay? So that's the value now. So our limit, take note, although exempt siya, may limit siya. Ano yung limit? Socialized housing. For house and lot, 450. If that is residential lot, only 180. Low cost, 750,000. Residential lot, only 1.5 million. House and lot or residential dwelling, 3,199,200. Okay, let's have an example. A dealer of real property sold the following. So we have here socialized house and lot at 500,000. We have a low-cost housing at 600,000. Residential lot sold at 1.8 million. And house and lot, he sold one house and lot worth 4 million. So one unit, one unit, one unit, one unit. So nakabenta siya ng isang house and lot na socialized 500. Low cost, 600. Isa uli na residential lot, 1.8. Isa uli na house and lot, 4 million. Okay, guys. So if this is the problem, you need to test the limit. So dealer siya, di ba? You will only be exempted if you are within the limits. So what are the limits? Ayan yung mga limit natin. Socialize. Pag house and lot, ano yung limit? 450. Magkano yung dyan? 500,000. Exempt or taxable? Taxable. Because it is more than the limit. Kailangan 450 lang, 500 yung nandyan. Next, low-cost housing, 600,000. Ano yung limit? 750. Within the limit, yes, this is considered exempt. Next, residential lot, 1.8 million. Ano yung limit? 1,919,500. Taxable, exempt. Exempt kasi nga it is within the limit. House and lot, 4 million. Ano yung ating limit? 3,199,200. Taxable, exempt. Taxable because it is more than the limit. It is more than the limit. Okay, so how do we do this? You will only compare the limits if you are a dealer. So you compare the amount of your selling price per unit to your limits. Okay, take note, you do it per unit basis. Per unit basis. So what is the rule then? The rule is that if ever it is within the limit, if it is within the limit, exempt. If more than the limit, it is considered taxable. If it's within the limit, exempt. If more than the limit, taxable. So, pagka halimbawa nagbenta ako ng 5 units of house and lot. Okay, gano'n na. 5 units of house and lot. One, I sold for 4 million. The four others I sold for 3 million pesos. Yung isa, within the limit or outside the limit? Outside the limit yung 4 million, di ba? So taxable. 3 million per unit yan. So kung yung 4 units, 3 million per unit, 3 million, is it within the limit or not? Within the limit, therefore this is exempt. You test it per unit basis. You do not test it as a whole. Kasi pag tinest mo as a whole yan, kung nagbenta ka daw ng 5 units, magkano total nito? 4 units, 1 unit at 4 million, so 4 million yan. 4 units at 3 million, that is 12 million. This is already 16 million. Eh di taxable na agad. Hindi ganon. We test it per unit basis. Per unit basis. Take note of this. We test it per unit basis. So what is our general rule? Our general rule is that this house and lot or these real properties test per unit basis. What is the exemption? If ever it is sold to same buyer. Sold to same buyer within 12-month period, or it is an adjacent lot. So for example, we have here a buyer E. We sold 200 square meters and then 300 square meters to that same buyer. So this is considered as a residential lot. So I sold 200 square meters residential lot for, let's say, 1.5 million pesos. And then 300 square meters residential lot for 3 million pesos. Okay, clear? 200 square meters, binenta ko yung residential lot at 1.5. Tapos, yung 300 square meters, 3 million. What is our limit for residential lot? 1,919,500. So kung ganyan yan, exempt to at saka taxable to. Okay? That is the rule. Kasi per unit basis nga tayo. But what is the exemption? If it is same buyer within the 12-month period, you need to aggregate it. What do we mean by aggregate? Pagsamahin mo na. So hindi mo pala siya itetest per unit basis, but pagsasamahin mo na. So pagsasamahin mo siya, magiging 4.5 million pesos. Again, initially, we use per unit basis. The exception, if we sold it to the same buyer within the 12-month period. So we have your 1.5 and 3 million, total of 4.5 million. The aggregate value now is 4.5 million. Is it within the limit or not? It is not, therefore it is taxable. Again, as a rule, we test it per unit basis. You need to know the limits. What are the limits again? For socialized and housing units, if that is house and lot, for 50,000. Residential lot, 180,000. How about for a low-cost housing, 750,000 pesos per unit? Residential lot, 1,919,500. Residential dwelling or house and lot, 2.5 million adjusted to 3,199,200. Okay, as a rule, per unit, exemption, we aggregate it if it's sold to same buyer within 12 months, and that is considered as an adjacent lot. So in our example, if per unit yan, yung isa sana exempt, yung isa taxable. Pero since same buyer, adjacent lot, we will aggregate them. 4.5 million, total amount now is taxable. The other will not be considered exempt, but already considered as a whole taxable. Okay. So the rules we just discussed, the limits, etc., is applicable from years 2018 until 2020. Ano yung years 2018, 2020? Ano yung rule natin? Pagka non-dealer, exempt. Pag dealer, exempt if. Okay, that is the rule. Under 2018 and 2018 to 2020. Let's proceed now the rule this year 2021. If you still remember, I told you in your activity that we still follow the old rule. Kasi I did not yet discuss it. But since we are now discussing it, take note, from 2021 until succeeding years, we have a new rule. So what is the rule for 2021? Sabi dun sa ating law that starting January 1, 2021, the VAT exemption shall only apply to sale of real properties not primarily held for sale to customers or held for lease in the ordinary course of trade or business, sale of real property utilized for socialized housing as defined by Republic Act 7279, and then sale of house and lot and other residential dwellings with selling price of not more than 2 million pesos. Okay, so what is this already? It applies to your residential house and lot. It applies to your residential house and lot. And what is the limit now? 2 million. Okay? So tinanggal na yung ibang limits. Wala na yung residential lot na limit. Ang meron na lang yung house and lot and other residential dwellings. Wala na yung ating residential lot. At ano yung bagong limit ng residential house and lot? 2 million pesos. 2 million pesos. Clear tayo dyan, ha? Ngayon, 2021 succeeding years, anong sabi? If the VAT exemption shall only apply to sale of real properties not primarily held for sale to customers, take note of that, and those held for lease in the ordinary course or trade or business, sale of real property utilized for socialized housing, low-cost housing, and residential house and lot. What is removed? No more residential lot. Okay? So if ever the problem tells you 2018 to 2020, apply the old rule. 2021, remove one item on your exemptions. What is removed? Residential lot. Ang natira na lang, residential house and lot. And what is the limit for your residential house and lot? 2 million pesos. 2 million pesos. I hope we are clear as to this provision. 2018 to 2020, meron yung apat na limit. 2021 and succeeding, tanggalin mo yung house, yung residential lot. Tapos, yung residential house and lot, ano nang limit? 2 million pesos. Next exemption, lease of residential unit. So, lease of residential unit with a monthly rental not exceeding 15,000 pesos. Again, this is again based on a per unit basis. Per unit basis. So, as a rule, if several units, if ever it is less than or equal to 15,000, exempt. If it's greater than 50,000, the other units, it is considered taxable. So, for example, you have a apartment. So, apartment unit. So, unit 1 until unit 10, the monthly is 10,000. Unit 11 to unit 15, the monthly is 18,000. Unit 16 to unit 30, the monthly is 25,000. Okay? So, you have several units. Take note, ha? Residential unit lang yan, ha? Residential unit. So, it cannot be a commercial unit, but residential unit. So, we have your apartment unit. Units 1 to 10, 10,000 pesos. Units 11 to 15, 18,000 pesos. Units 16 to 30, 25,000 pesos. When is it exempt? If it does not exceed 15,000 pesos. So, if that is several unit, per unit basis ulit tayo. 10,000 does not exceed or exceed. Does not, therefore, this is considered exempt. 18,000 exceed, does not exceed. Exceed, therefore, taxable. 25,000 exceed, does not exceed. Exceed, therefore, this is considered taxable. So we still use your per unit basis. So what is the rule? If ever those less than or equal to 15,000, they are exempt. If greater, they are considered taxable. If you are considered taxable, you are either paying VAT or percentage tax. Okay, I hope we are clear as to your list of residential units. only for residential units. You test it on your limit. Limit is 15,000. If it is less than or equal to 15, exempt. Greater than 15, taxable. Next, books, newspaper, and magazine. So here, sale, importation, printing, or publication of books, any newspaper, magazines, review, or bulletin, which appears at regular intervals with fixed prices or subscription, and sale and which is not devoted principally to the publication of paid advertisements. Okay, so what are the transactions that are considered exempt here? Sale, importation, printing, and publication. So there are four transactions that are exempt. Unlike in the other transactions, what are the only exempt? That is either sale, that is either lease, or that is either importation. Here in this particular exemptions, what are the different transactions that are exempt? Sale, importation, printing, and publication. Any of the four transactions guarantee exemption. Now, what are exempt as to the sale, importation, printing, or publication? Either newspaper, if you sell newspaper, if you import newspaper, if you print newspaper, if you publish newspaper. So the seller, the importer, or the printer or publisher of a newspaper is exempt. Another, magazine. If you are a seller of magazine, you import magazine, you print magazine, or you publish magazine, you are also exempt. Next, review bulletins. If you are selling review bulletins, you import review bulletins, you print review bulletins, or you publish review bulletins, you are considered exempt. That is the general rule. But take note, the particular newspaper, magazine, or review bulletins must not be devoted for paid advertisements. So what you need to look here is the content of the newspaper, magazine, or review bulletins. If it is principally, meaning most or more than the different pages in your newspaper, magazine, or review bulletins, what is more placed into that item is a paid advertisement, it is considered taxable. Okay? So kung majority ng nandun is paid advertisements, taxable. So for example, you have a newspaper, you are a publisher of a newspaper, and then 50 pages of that newspaper, 50 out of 50 is for paid advertisement. Question, taxable, exempt? Taxable because it is now for paid advertisements, principally for paid advertisement. But what if you have a newspaper and then 5 out of 50 pages is for advertisement? Taxable, exempt? Exempt. Because again, majority is not for advertisement. You just need to look what is the greater bulk of that particular publishing. Is it for advertisement or not? If it's principally for advertisement, taxable. If not, it is considered exempt. Okay? So here, what are the transactions exempt? Apat. Sale, importation, printing, publication. Of what? Newspaper, magazine, or review bulletins. Take note of this. And we have an exemption here. Paid advertisements. Next, vessels or aircrafts. Vessels or aircrafts. So sale, importation, or lease of passenger or cargo vessels and aircraft, including engine, equipment, and spare parts thereof for domestic or international transport operations. So what are the transactions that are exempt here? We have your sale, importation, and lease. So we have here three transactions that are exempt: sale, importation, or lease. Of what items? Those items that is considered as a passenger or cargo vessel, passenger or cargo aircraft, or the engine, equipment, or spare parts thereof. Okay? So, what are the transactions? Sale, importation, or lease. Of what? Passenger or cargo vessel. Sir, what do we mean by a passenger or cargo vessel? When we talk about your vessel, these are the different vehicles that is normally used for the sea. So if that particular vessel is for passenger or cargo, then it is considered exempt. So you just need to look as to the purpose. The purpose is for passenger or cargo transport. Why? Because transportation is one of the necessities of a human being also. So, pag sinabing vessel, guys, ang ibig sabihin niyan, yan ay yung mga vehicles used for space. Pag aircraft naman, vehicles used sa air. Okay. So, if that vessel or aircraft is intended for passenger or cargo, pag passenger, ibig sabihin yung vessel, ginagamit lang for passengers. So, yan yung mga ferries ninyo, boats. Pwede rin na yung vessel is intended only for cargo. So, pagka kasi transportation yan, either passenger or cargo or both. Meron kasi yung passenger na nga, may cargo pang laman. Meron naman yung purely passenger lang, meron naman yung purely cargo. So if ever it is either passenger or cargo, if that is vessel or aircraft, exempt, including the passenger or cargo engine, equipment, or spare parts of that vessel or aircraft. What are the exemptions? The selling, importation, and leasing. For example, I will sell to you a ferry used for passenger operations. Ferry for passenger operations, selling, exempt. I will lease to you the ferry for passenger operations, leasing, and then ferry that is for passenger operations, exempt. I will list to you my yacht. Okay. List to you my yacht. List. Pasok ba sa list? Yes. Yacht, is that a vessel or aircraft? It is considered as a vessel. So, the question is your private yacht considered a passenger or cargo vessel? No. Kasi normally, yung mga yacht na yan, katulad nung kila Willie Revillame or whoever person who has a private yacht, normally what they do there is not for passenger or cargo operations, but it is for luxury already. Since it is not for passenger or cargo, it is considered taxable. So you just need to look if ever the particular cargo vessel or passenger vessel or cargo aircraft or passenger aircraft is for transport operations. If it is for transport operations, then it is exempt. Transactions, sale, importation, or lease. Guys, again, this is a reminder that it is important for you to remember what are the transactions. Is it the sale only? Is it the lease only? Is it the importation only? Or is it the services only? Or is it the publication only, etc. Okay? So you need to know if ever it is exempt. So halimbawa, pag sinabi importation of uh, your professional equipments, take note, under our law, only the importation of professional equipment is exempt. So if you will sell professional equipment, pag sinabi nating selling, that is domestic. So importation, yun lang yung exempt. So kung nagbenta ka ng professional equipment, exempt, taxable. Taxable already. Because under the law, what is exempt only is the selling of, what is exempt only is the importation of your professional equipment. Okay? So remember the transactions. And remember the items that are exempted. Okay? Vessels or aircraft. We have three transactions and the items: passenger or cargo vessel, passenger cargo aircraft, engine, equipment, and spare parts of that passenger or cargo vessel or aircraft. Next, we have your fuels or supplies. So we have here, what is the transaction? Importation. So the only transaction that is considered exempt here is your importation of what? Fuel, goods, or supplies for international shipping or air transport. Okay? So take note, it is only importation. It is only for importation. What if domestic? What if domestic shipping cannot be? Kasi sabi, international shipping. So it is, again, important for you to know if ever it is an importation for international shipping or for domestic shipping. Here, international shipping of fuel, goods, and supplies. Okay? So here, take note, importation, fuel, goods, or supplies for international shipping. Next, bank or non-bank. So here, all services. What is exempted are services of what? Bank or non-bank. So whether you are bank or non-bank financial intermediary, if ever you provide services, it is considered exempt. So for example, I am a bank. So I have a bank. So I have lending function. So I lent money. Nagpa-loan ako. Is that loan and the interest therefore considered taxable under business tax? No, because under the rule, it is exempt. So any services, dito kasi all services na. So ang exemption dito is not a transaction, but the whole industry. What is exempted here is the industry. What industry? Bank or non-bank. A while back, what we have discussed are exemptions based on a particular transaction. But here, what is exempted? The whole industry. So the services of that industry, the bank industry or non-bank industry, it is considered exempt. Okay? Next, senior or PWD. Sale or list of goods and services to senior and persons with disability are exempt from business tax. So for example, we have here a selling price. Let's say 224 inclusive of VAT. Okay. So take note, what we look here is not a particular transaction. What we look here is the buyer. A while back, we look as to the transaction of the seller. Here, we look as to the transaction of a particular buyer. So if we have a buyer who is considered a senior citizen or a PWD, that sale is exempt. Okay. So here, let's say our selling price is 224 inclusive of VAT. What we do is we need to get the price exclusive of VAT. To get for the price exclusive of VAT, that is your price divided by 100% plus 12%. Why? 100%, this is the price without VAT. 12% is the VAT. So you need to divide it. What is our price? 224 divided by 112%, we have 200 pesos. 200 pesos now is the price exclusive of VAT. And then, that is the amount of your sale. Just take note that whatever is the pass-on tax, that is the VAT, it is to be removed kasi nga they are exempt. So any sale of senior or PWD, it is considered exempt. So kung nagbenta ka ng 200 pesos, and 224 pesos sa senior or PWD, tanggalin mo yung VAT para makuha mo yung price, 200 pesos. Less discount. They will have a discount. What is the discount? 20%. So 40. What is the net price? 160. So, pero pag tinanong kayo, what is the price in case the sale is to a senior or PWD, your answer is 200 pesos. Because again, the VAT or the business tax on the sale of senior or PWD is exempt. So, kailangan kunin mo yung price exclusive of VAT or price exclusive of business tax. Okay? Senior or PWD, pag nagbenta ka, yung buyer mo ay senior or PWD or nagpalis ka sa senior or PWD, tanggalin mo yung business tax. Next, transfer of property. Letter X. Transfer of property pursuant to Section 40, Paragraph C, subparagraph 2 of the NIRC as amended. So what is this transfer of property? Do you still remember your different ordinary gains or losses? Okay. So under that ordinary gains or losses, we have there a provision under section 40, paragraph C, subparagraph 2. This is on a merger or consolidation, normally known as a business combination. Sir, what is a business combination? So in a business combination, we have your business one and business two. One business is considered a buyer, one business is considered a seller. Here, business one will buy the whole business two. Kaya siya business combination, bibilhin ng isang company yung isang company. They will now combine, they will merge. So one business will buy the other business. So here, as a seller, you will recognize any gain or losses. This gain or loss is not considered ordinary course of business. Okay? It is not considered ordinary course of business. That's why it is considered exempt. So if ever there is a transfer of property pursuant to a merger or consolidation or a business combination, take note that whatever gains or losses that the seller had incurred is not considered as a gain or loss that is subject to business tax. It is not based on ordinary course of business. Bakit? Sino naman ang may kumpanya mo yan? Let's say marami kang kumpanya. You are engaged in the selling of your company. That is so vague as to your transaction. Imagine, you make companies and you engage in selling companies. That is, I think, not a good idea of a business because you build it up and then you sell, you build it up and then you sell. That's not a great idea for a business. That's why, under our rules, if there is a transfer of property due to merger or consolidation, any sale made by the other company to one company is considered exempt because it is not done in the ordinary course of business. Okay? We cannot say that you are in a trading of selling your business. That cannot be. You are trading on a selling of a business. That cannot be. Okay? Next, letter Y. Homeowners and condominium dues. Association dues, membership fees, and other assessments and charges collected by homeowners, associations, and condominium corporations. So, collections. What collections are exempted? We have three. We have your association dues, membership fees, and your assessments. So these items are considered exempt. So if you collect association dues, membership fees, and assessments, you are exempt. Who collects? The question is, who collects? It is the homeowners association and your condominium corporation. It is your condominium corporation, homeowners association, and your condominium operations. Okay, so I hope we are clear here that in case the collection is made by homeowners association and condominium corporations, as to association dues, membership fees, and assessments, any collection is not subject to business tax. They are considered exempt. Next, sale of gold to Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas. If you have here sale of gold to Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, normally, who sells? The miner. Sir, why is this considered exempt? This is considered exempt because, guys, normally gold is a signal of the purchasing power of one country. So the greater your gold reserves are, you have the higher purchasing power. And normally, you the number of your gold reserves is a signal for you to whether or not create more bills or you will stop creating bills. So in this case, so that we have higher amount of gold reserves, we place an exemption on the sale of gold to BSP. We want that all of the gold will be sold to BSP instead. So if you are a miner, if you will sell your gold to BSP, it is considered exempt. How about if you sell your gold to third party? It is considered taxable. Not only a miner, anyone who will sell gold to BSP is considered exempt. Okay. But if you will sell other minerals, let's say, pangit naman ng term na minerals, other, basta other things, let's say silver or diamond, whether BSP or not, it is considered taxable. Okay? So take note, guys, if you will sell other items, not gold, for example, silver or diamond, whether you sell it to BSP or not, it is considered taxable. So for example, sale to sale of sale to BSP. Gold, the selling price is 300,000. Silver, the selling price is 800,000. Ruby, the selling price is 400,000, which is exempt. Sale of gold to BSB. So the gold is exempt, silver taxable, ruby taxable. Next, sale to BSP. Gold 300,000. And then ML Villiers. ML Villiers, gold 800,000, which is exempt. Sabi natin, only the sale of gold to BSP. So the sale of gold to BSP of 300,000, exempt. Gold to MN Villiers, this is already taxable. Only the gold to BSP. Gold to third party, taxable. Other minerals, whether BSP or not, taxable. So dito, other minerals, silver or ruby, taxable. Kahit pa sa BSP natin yung binenta. Ano lang ang exempt? Sale of gold to BSP. Nag-iisa lang yan. Sale of gold to BSP. Gold, BSP. Next. Sale of certain medicines. So before, these medicines are not exempt from business tax. Why? Because before, guys, what we have here is that this cost or these medicines are is still under normal price. However, as a measure given by the government, these medicines normally cost high. So, high price talaga siya. So, to minimize the high price, they remove the imposition of business tax. So, to at least minimize the high price, they remove the business tax. Why? Di ba, alam nyo naman na if this is the price, the business tax is considered an indirect tax. Being an indirect tax, it should increase the price. Okay? So, if ever, if you will exempt that item, it should decrease the price. Okay. So this particular sale of medicines was provided so that to decrease the price of these medicines. What medicines? For diabetes, for high cholesterol, and for hypertension. As to what type of medicine, kung ano bang klase ng medicine ba yan, hindi ko alam. Hindi ko naman alam kung ano yung mga medicines for diabetes, for high cholesterol, or for hypertension. But if you classify it as such as a medicine for the diabetes, high cholesterol, or hypertension, it is considered exempt. So what is exempt? What transaction? What transaction is exempt? The transaction is the sale. The sale of what? Drugs or medicines, particularly for diabetes, high cholesterol, and for hypertension. Okay? So we're done now with your different exempt transactions. Before we end, I just want to place an emphasis that you need to know what particular transaction. Is it the sale, importation, lease, or a particular act? And what are the items? And in case there are limits, always test for limits. If it is within the limit, it is considered exempt. If outside the limit, it is considered taxable. And take note, guys, you do it on a per unit basis. You do it on a per unit basis. Everything is per unit basis except for a real property. We already discussed when is a real property taxable and when it is considered exempt. Okay? So what is again the rule on your business tax? Let's have a review. What is the rule on your business tax? The rule is if ever it is considered exempt, then no business tax. If it is considered taxable, you are either taxed at VAT or taxed at other percentage tax plus excise tax. When are you considered VAT? Again, if you meet your VAT threshold amount amounting to 3 million pesos for businesses or other businesses, but specifically for your licenses or franchise of TV or radio, what is the threshold amount? 10 million. When are you to pay OPT? If non-VAT. What is our OPT? General rule, 3%. Okay? So we're already done about business tax. We're done about exemption. We are now moving into the taxability of those items or business transactions which is not exempt. So for next meeting, we are now to discuss VAT, and then we proceed to OPT, and then we proceed to excise VAT.